Hi, I'm Cynthia McDermott, Emeritus Faculty Member at Antioch University. I'm going to talk just a little bit about books and reading, something very near and dear to my heart. I've always called myself a bookaholic because I read a lot. Many years ago, for the International Reading Association, which is now the International Literacy Association, I put together a panel of well-known authors, Jane Nolan, Ted Taylor, and Lois Lowry. And our topic was censorship. And they talked about the books that had been censored that they wrote and talked about why. But then Jane said something that really, I think, shocked all of us. Now, thinking about it later, it's not so shocking. But Jane talked about the fact that when she sits down in her farmhouse up in New England at her typewriter and starts to write a story, she is also thinking about what will pass muster with her agent or her publisher. And so she called that gray censorship, Grey, this kind of censorship. And the fact that we always censor ourselves at some level, you know, where appropriate language is, etc. That's an important thing to remember so that when you pick up a book to read with your kids, you can assume that there's already been a careful evaluation by the author of what is appropriate for the reader, even though you might not agree with that. And so that notion of gray censorship always made me feel very sad in a way that an author had to do that. But at the other side, as a mother and a grandmother, it also helped me realize that authors were being very cautious about what they were putting out into the public for particularly young people to read. I also think this is a time for us to stand with the organizations that are fighting against the banning that's going on. So that's PEN America, PEN International, an organization that supports authors across the world that are being imprisoned and banned and violated. And also the International Literacy Association, and most importantly, the American Library Association. Our libraries, we're so fortunate to have libraries where some people have said if libraries were started now, they would all be charged. We'd have to charge to go into them, etc. That's a free space for free thinking. That's a place where the Second Amendment is constantly supported by our hardworking librarians who work diligently to make sure that any book is available to kids and adults. And there's always a book in a library that's going to offend somebody. That's the nature of things. I wanted to read to you a recent quote that I saw from Stephen King, who has been banned quite frequently. He's talking about censorship is rarely about family values. It's about people saying, well, if it's bad for me, it's bad for you. And then he says, yet when books are run out of school classrooms or even out of school libraries as a result of these ideas, I'm never much disturbed as a citizen. Very different kind of point of view. Not as a writer, not even as a school teacher, which I used to be. What I tell kids is, don't get mad, get even. Don't spend time waving signs or carrying petitions around the neighborhood. Instead, run. Don't walk to the nearest non-school library or to the local bookstore and get whatever it is that they banned. Read whatever they're trying to keep out of your eyes and your brain, because that's exactly what you need to know. And what we're seeing across the country are young people setting up book clubs and using and reading banned books. One other real quick quote. This is from Ray Bradbury. Fahrenheit 451 was banned for years. That was not a new process. And Bradbury picked up the book. This is a kind of an anecdotal story, and realized that some of his writing had been edited out of the book. And he was not very happy about that. So if you're going to read Fahrenheit 51, either read the very first edition or read the edition that came out as the 60th anniversary edition, because he had put back into the book all the words that were missing. But this is what Bradbury says. You don't have to burn books or ban them to destroy a culture. You just have to get people to stop reading them. So as a literary person, as a bookaholic, as someone who loves to read, we would have a response against banned books if more people were reading, if more people valued books, if more people argued for a fair evaluation, that protocols that have been set up by the American Library Association, the International Library Literacy Association, and PEN International and PEN America were followed, rather than allowing this process to be placed into the hands of people who are probably not even readers. And that's the problem. So go get a good book, go get a banned book, and buy the copies for your friends, and fight this banned book process, and read. Read. Thanks.